Welcome, everyone, to the Sister Science Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jill Novak, and today we're diving into a fascinating conversation about awakening and trusting your intuition. So, have you ever had a gut feeling that you couldn't ignore? Or have you ever sensed energy before words were spoken? Intuition is our natural ability to perceive these things and to look beyond our five senses. Today, that's what we're going to explore in this deep conversation. So, we are in conversation today with Rose. Rosie is the creator of the course Energy, Intuition, and Everything in Between. This is a transformative journey. It awakens your intuition and it helps you understand how unseen forces shape your life. I had the privilege of being the producer when Rosie first launched this course, and I witnessed firsthand the powerful and life-changing techniques, ideas, paradigm shifting awareness things that this course offered me. And I'm so excited to be in conversation with you, Rose Reeder. How
Yeah,
are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Can I just dive in by asking you if you can give us a definition of that word intuition?
Oh, I can give you a definition and like an hour's worth of information, no problem. Intuition is my passion. And I would say the Webster's Dictionary defines it as to know or have the ability to understand something instinctively without the conscious need for reasoning and or logical analysis.
Mm.
And for those of us that have this intuition, it's like, oh, this is so that definition is so juicy. And for those that are like, wait, what? No logical reasoning, no analytical. It is, you can have both. It's not one or the other. So that is my definition of intuition. Intuition can be learned, and you don't have to forego your logical mind. You can blend them both. It's beautiful.
So you're not, when you say intuition, it's not like you're saying it's the same as your logical mind, but it can work alongside your logical mind.
It, yes, it works together with your logical mind. But in my world, it's the leader.
Uh-huh.
My logical mind and my analytical reasoning comes alongside it and supports it.
Okay.
And intuition then comes and supports the ability for me to speak my truth, to understand, oh, this is where I need to go and use my energy to speak into. Oh, this is when I need to stay silent. This is, I just know that I know that I know.
Right.
Does that
Okay,
make
so yeah, it does make sense. And at the same time, it's something that I don't think is taught to us. I don't think it's something that our world has allowed us to honor or acknowledge or trust. And so the fact that you're talking about it as sort of your go-to, would you say that's not most of our experiences, that we automatically trust our intuition over our logical minds?
No, no, I would say the absolute opposite is, for instance, when a lot of people ask me, okay, well, so how did you actually start trusting your intuition, or how did you learn to use your intuition? And I will say my earliest memory of my intuition, because intuition is basically signs, symbols, knowings, feelings, and we'll get into that. But how I started to use it was when I was little. I didn't even understand that that was not normal. I would see colors around people, and I would see a lot of red and dots and how they would jump and form. And my mom always thought I had migraines. And so I was given baby aspirin all the time. So no, we were not, my mom didn't say, oh, Rosie, no worries. You know what? You're just seeing people's auras. She was
Mm.
like, and cue the baby aspirin again. That girl has way too many sites. And so that's how I was taught, was more in the way of this isn't normal.
Right.
And so it got shut down, that section of intuition, because intuition isn't just, oh, you see it this way and that's this way. Like there are so many ways that you can gain the languages of intuition, but that specific type of language of seeing colors or auras got shut down for me.
So colors is one. How else might I recognize that I am in connection with intuition in my own body? What else, what other sensations does it show up as?
Let's just say six other. You have your five main senses. These are the extrasensory perceptions, which kind of make up intuition or are tangible ways that you can feel intuition when you're learning. And yes, everyone can learn it. Yes, some people are actually have it and go a little further in it because it just seems second nature to them. But
Yeah.
everyone and anyone can learn it. So six being clairvoyance, the ability to clearly see, the ability to all of a sudden you're talking with somebody and you kind of get this flash of a picture and
Mm,
or you might just see something and you're not sure what that means and you just brush by it. So what it takes in order to understand these clairs is that you need to understand that you need to slow down.
mm,
You need to understand what they are. And I'll just go through them, which is Claire Gustus's. I'm gonna butcher it. It's basically the ability to taste.
mhm.
And you're like, how in God's name do you use that? And I was just teaching this morning, and one of the ladies was like, well, I'm getting this metal taste in my mouth. In my world, when you taste metal, that means bitterness. Because I have a
Mm,
toolbox now that I've learned to use when I have a client or I see somebody or I'm in a position of being beside somebody and all of a sudden I'll have this metal taste. I'm like, oh, they're challenged with bitterness right now. Oh, it's you're feeling bitterness. And she's like, no, it doesn't feel like that to me. And so again, being very mindful because interpretation, what it meant to her in her toolbox is strength.
interesting.
Again, then we'll take it to clairalience, which is the smell. It's the ability to smell things. And again, it's one person will come into my office and say, "Oh, Rosie, your room smells like smoke." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I haven't smoked and I don't smoke and like I haven't even lit sage. It doesn't even smell like weed." And yet another person and he'll come in and he's like, "No, no, no, no." And this is a 14-year-old boy. He'll come in and he's like, "No, no, no. When I smell that, that means somebody is spiritual and
Interesting.
I can trust them." And here's this 14-year-old football player who has learned from a very young age that he can, when what he can and can't trust is based on his smell.
Right. Okay,
Okay.
so we're using our five senses, your sight, your taste, your smell.
Your smell, you're using your clear empathy. You walk into a room and you were fine before you got to the party and you get to the party and now you're sad.
Uh-huh.
Sad, sad, sad. And you're just like, oh, wow, I am a real downer. What's wrong with me? It's like, no, wait, stop. Ask your inner wisdom. Is this my emotion or is this somebody else's? Because I was fine like 5 minutes ago.
Right.
And you'll be like, oh my God, this isn't mine. And then the next question that I usually ask is, whose is this? And do I need to do anything about it? But that's a whole different topic. Let's stay on
Okay.
the
Okay.
topic, which is you can walk into a room and feel somebody's emotion. And if you're not taught, especially these teenage kids that are coming to see me, they're like, oh my God, they're tanked. But I'll ask them, okay, so when you walk into your classroom, can you feel every 32 other kids in this classroom? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, how do you function?
Right.
Or they'll feel their teacher and they don't even know how to deal with it because nobody has taught them. How do I deal with emotions that aren't mine? Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So we have tasting, smelling, and then feeling other people's emotions.
Yeah.
Okay. Then sometimes we'll have clairaudience where I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but maybe all of a sudden you are audibly hearing something and you're like, am I losing my noodle?
Yeah.
Or you will sort of hear something inside your head. And you know what I'm talking about. It's almost like this, you shouldn't go left, you should go right. And you're like, wait, what? What? And it's that first thing that drops in, and you're like, you know it's not your own.
That one is mine.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
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 It's like, oh,
It's
we
like voices talking to you kind of deal. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
you'll know that it's not you making the shit up.
Yeah.
It's a very clear hearing-ish. Oh, there's going to be a lot of ishes in this
Yeah,
because
yeah.
You're gonna have to feel your way through, and you'll be practicing this, but that's future you. So the clear hearing for you is, how would you say you use it the most, or when do you get it the most?
I don't, well, first of all, I want to go back to the fact that you'll know the difference between you're making shit up and it's a real voice. And I was going to say, before I did your course, I don't know that I did know the difference between those
Right.
things.
Okay.
But now that I have done your course and I've really played with these ways in which intuition is experienced in me, now I can tell the difference. Um, yeah, the clairaudience voice is simple, effective, a little bit playful, highly amused at me. Um, yeah, and quite loving and quite nice. Yeah.
And when we slow down enough, because again, in our culture, we are so addicted to the TikTok, to the Instagram, to the quick, that we miss these most powerful inner prompts that are everyone's inheritance.
So speed, how we do life is honestly one of the things that sort of is a disruptor of our connection to intuition.
Yes, absolutely. But that doesn't mean you have to sit in lotus position forever and never move and wait to get the great starlight. It is just being mindful, and it's like a squirrel. It's like, whoa, what was
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
wait, I'm just going to slow it down for this moment and pay attention. It doesn't mean I sit in a corner and I never use my analytical mind. I never use my logical mind. It's I create space to learn with my intuition how to use it. And a lot of times it's going to require you to go, whoa, 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 what was that? Slow this down.
Okay, I like that. So there's a piece of intuition that has to do with bringing, like having conscious awareness,
Yes.
like going, okay, like what you said, whoa, 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 what just happened? So like allowing it, because you said something really earlier where you were like, usually it just sort of whips by us and we dismiss it or we don't pay attention to it. And I think that's what we've been taught to do is like, don't get all tied up over there. That's not important. Stay here in this analytical side.
Well, and for fair reason, right? Which is a lot in our culture, in our Western culture, is about how fast you can produce something, how
Mm,
quick you can answer something, how much science is backed behind this. And
mm,
that's where the honoring is. But if we were to take you, say, somewhere else into Ecuador or into traditional Chinese medicine, I'm not sure. It depends how you've been trained. And I would say uh, we've not necessarily been trained to not pay attention. We just haven't been trained in this at all. We don't
yeah, yeah.
we don't even know this,
Absolutely.
like, we don't even know this existed until it was necessary.
Okay, so you've mentioned sight, taste, smell, hearing,
Yeah,
empathy.
I'm going to regroup
What's the
on
other one that we're missing?
clairvoyance. It's claircognizance. It's the knowing. And
Okay.
how you'll know this is if for most of your life, people will say to you, "Oh, you're such a know-it-all." And
Mm,
you're like, well, I just knew I knew. I don't know how I knew. I just knew. And again, there's a lot of shame around this one, because for me that was one of my biggest, was just I knew, like I know when someone is lying, and it's not a smell, it's not a taste, it's not anything. I don't get any of that language. I just know. It's this
mm.
deep knowing. And can I be wrong? Yes, but I say that with a raised eyebrow, and maybe.
Maybe not. Yeah.
But it can really tick people off or piss people off, because it's like, who wants somebody around that knows everything about them? Nobody,
Well, and the other thing is that if you know something, we always want proof.
right? Exactly. And sometimes, especially in this intuition, we may not get proof
Okay.
for 7 years. And let me give you an example. I had a vision, or what would be called like a sight, right? And that's another type. It's not a clair, but it's a type. I would have a vision, and I visioned one of my friends, and it was her dad, and he was dying, and she was in Hawaii, and at that time I phoned her, and I'm like, knew she was in Hawaii, and I'm like, hey, I just had this vision slash dream, that your dad was dying. And it was like he was okay, and he just wanted you to know that it's okay. And in the real life, he was challenged, and they thought he was going to die while they were in Hawaii. And I
Wow.
thought, you shouldn't, it doesn't, you don't need to come back.
Mm,
And he recovered, he was fine, and everyone was like, you didn't get that. That wasn't clear. Okay,
mm.
7 years almost to the day. She phones me and's like, I'm in Hawaii. My dad is dying. Do I need to fly home? And I'm like, do you remember that vision I had? We're bringing it back.
Wow.
And she decided not to fly home, and it worked out beautifully 7 years later.
So, on a personal level, then, you're giving us a toolbox of how to be in relationship with, sort of the intuitive information that we're gathering. And you're giving us sort of a communication toolbox with our intuition.
Exactly. And that was a very deep example. An easier example. Your child comes home. You get a feeling that something's off, but you can't quite put a finger on it. So, how do you use your intuition for that?
Yeah.
You get this taste in your mouth that wasn't there before. What are you going to do? You get a smell. What are you going to do? You get a
Okay.
knowing. You get a knowing that I know as a mom, we always get these knowings, but no, that knowing that something is very deeply off. And
Yeah.
ask yourself, and you just pause for a minute, and then you get a picture. You don't go and say, I got this picture. You just ask them, hey, did you hang out with so and so today? Because in the
Mm.
picture, you see this kid, right? Or, hey, did you go to the Drunken Lobster today? You're like, how the hell did you know that? It's like, oh, I was just curious. And then it brings up a whole beautiful conversation that would never be started. And then the emotions start to come out because it gives you an ability to ask yourself, is this mine to do? Is it not mine to do? And if it's yours to do, you get to hold this beautiful space for somebody to maybe begin to process their emotion.
So you're taking the time to notice. So
Yeah,
that first piece is noticing. And then that second piece is it like almost an inquiry around it. Like, is this XYZ?
it's like life is trying to co-collaborate with you, to
Yeah.
co-create, to say, can you care for this person over here? Can you care
Okay.
for yourself? Can you
Yeah.
care for the global?
Yeah. So this is where like it's like we have to step out of sort of that logical productivity, ego-based, data-driven mind, and we have to slip into something that's a little bit more ethereal. And when we notice it, we have to give ourselves time to pause and inquire.
Yes, the technique is correct. I just need to say you don't have to.
Oh, okay.
Have to. You get the choice. That's the
Okay.
beauty of intuition. You don't have to, just because you feel something or sense something or see something, you don't have to do anything about it. You get to
Okay.
choose. You get to
Okay.
choose, say, I want to do this, or I'm curious about this.
Okay.
It is not a I must, because life doesn't work like that. Life invites us to say, would you like to understand this? Do you want to play a little bit more? Do you want to
Yeah.
get creative together? And that's intuition is way more imagination, creativity. It's not in place of, again, and it's not in place of science, of logic. And it's not putting one aside. It's can we bring these two together?
Okay.
That's how I view it. It's not a I have to, I must, it's oh, this is juicy. This is playful. This is curious. Oh my God, this is magic.
Okay.
And then I use my analytical mind and my logical mind to say, is this mine to say something about? No. Okay, I'm out. I'm just going to shut all this down and I'm just going to send love and walk away.
Okay. So if our goal is to be in better relationship with intuition,
Love it.
um,
Yes,
yeah, can you give us some ways to do that?
absolutely. Okay. So what I would say is before we get into giving you ways to do this, it would be more of what blocks stop you.
Okay, okay. Let's do that first then. Okay, so tell me,
Mm,
yeah, because I feel like that one's actually probably really easy. Like, what clouds my intuition? You've already sort of talked about speed.
yeah.
Like when we go really fast, we just sort of like blow right by it. What else?
Okay. So shame is a really big one.
Shame.
Shame I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've been called a Russian voodoo witch doctor.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's meant in the kindest of way. And yet I had to be able to just hold steady in that and go, yes and no, it's way more than that. It is so much bigger than that. And what I would say is shame, if you look in history, anyone who had this kind of leaning or would own this kind of intuition would usually have been called some kind of healer, some kind of witch. And
Right.
most of them, since about, I think it was probably close to what, the 1600s, 1700s, when witches it was starting to be out of vogue. And yes, we would be hung, we'd probably be fired, we'd probably be, put in a fire, put over a cliff. The last woman charged in the UK was only in 1944 for being a witch and being able to see the U-boats and where they were located and let parents know which one of their sons had died. And
Wow.
so she was tried and put in jail for 9 months. That's not even 100 years ago. So we still have a lot of shame around, well, I'm not that. That's
Yeah, okay.
The shame comes more from the religious side of things, of which I was brought up very religious. And how I came into this was through a bishop.
Hmm.
And he taught so much about working in this field under the auspices of religion. And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And yet there's so much shame that comes from this is evil. And there's fear that rises. Like we said, it's been 80 some years that where the last woman was tried. So of
Yeah.
course we're going to have a little fear about it. Fear of being mocked, fear of being put around the side, fear that um it's pseudoscience, right?
There's a lot around being judged or not being able to prove it or not trusting it, even not trusting it myself. Like I might feel it, but I don't know if I can trust that. Like, is it real?
Right?
Yeah.
And again, the blocks are societally conditioned.
Okay.
Right? But
Yeah.
the more you play with it, the more it becomes so powerful. But if we don't have anyone in our circle to bring assurance to us that this isn't, cuckoo machu or you're batshit crazy, you're
Hmm.
making it up. It is, no, 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 you got it. Let's just, some of it might be that your interpretation is off. That's okay. But you get
Hmm. Hmm.
and you bring dreams in and that's another language of intuition, right? So again, there's many avenues, but many of us have dreams and we don't have a moment to ponder what is that trying to tell me.
Yeah. When I was in your course, when you launched your course, I remember learning to use my breath to help me decipher what was true for me or not true for me, what my intuition was telling me, and find my yes, nos in breath. So, like if my breath felt tight, held, restricted, that would be a no. And if my breath was wide open, that was a yes. And also taught me how to sort of do that sway test, that lean forward, lean
Yes.
back and like just a simple practice to help me listen, I guess.
So that what you're speaking of is um, intuition plus plus, which is understanding your unique inner wisdom.
Okay.
So what you are doing is getting your inner wisdom and getting your yes and your no. And people will get it in very differing ways. And that's what we teach, which is how do I get my internal yes, no? My GPS, not yours, mine.
Yeah.
And every single person, it's going to be different. We can teach you how to get it externally with a pendulum, no problem.
Right.
You can
Okay.
do a sway test, which is back and forth. You stand up and you ask yourself, show me my yes. And then you start to lean forward and show me my no. You start to lean backwards. Some people will be to one side or the other. It's the sway test. And this is my favorite, which is that the interlocking fingers, it's like, am I supposed to go buy that outfit later today? And that's my no. And I'm like, really? Really? I want it to be yes. And so I'll try again and I'll still get no. That's me being very materialistic white woman. And I'm okay with that. And it's like, no, am I supposed to go to this gala event on Sunday night? Yes, I am. Oh, okay.
Okay, so for people who are listening and not seeing, this is Rosie's interlocking she's touching her thumb to her forefinger and interlocking her opposite thumb to forefinger. And then when she goes to tug them apart, so a no means it breaks open and a yes means it
No,
stays
no, no,
contained.
no, no, no.
Oh,
This is the beauty of life. Is my yes might be that it stays together.
okay, okay.
And my no might be that it lets go. Yours might be completely opposite. This is the intimacy of life.
Is
Is
finding your
don't
own answers.
right? Exactly.
Yeah,
We taught this to children right from the beginning. We have done them a grand disservice. I have to go one back to what blocks us is because we've taught children right from the beginning, someone else has your answer, whether it's your teacher, whether it's your mother, your father, whether it's your pastor, whether it's, a colleague, a boss. We have always been taught somebody else outside of ourselves has the answer.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what blocks us. So we're coming home. It's a homecoming to finding your own yes, no, and trusting yourself. That when people say, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? I'll say it's to learn to trust yourself.
yeah,
And
yeah,
this is how we do it, is we begin by, what is my yes, no? And then we start understanding your extrasensory perceptions, which are, wow, I smell. Wow, I taste. Wow, I know. I feel.
I
I
hear,
I
I
hear.
see.
I see. And
Yeah,
that's when we start layering it on, but we understand, oh, this is why it never happened and where we got diverted and where I was never trained in this. I can't be a samurai master if nobody teaches me how to use a sword.
yeah. Okay, so it's like we're integrating this intuition do you see it as an equal and opposite to our logical mind?
That's a good question. Do I see it as equal and opposite? I see it as completely different. And I
Okay,
don't see it as equal or opposite. I see it as both are supporting roles.
okay,
Both play. I often see um, if I don't, here's what I will say. If I don't know what to do next, I will usually rely on my inner wisdom and my intuition.
yeah,
And that leads. That's what I'll lead with. If I'm trying to organize a course or trying to organize an event or trying to organize my child, I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit around trying to use my intuition. I'm going to use my logic because logic says I need to get going and move on this, and this. And if I hit a roadblock of like, what shall I do? Shall I put it in April or should I put it in June? And I don't know. That's when I bring in my intuition.
okay,
And so it plays the supporting role to my analytical mind. But if I am going, all right, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing in my life or what my purpose is, that's when I'll lead with my intuition, or I don't know what to do tomorrow. Does this make sense to you?
yeah, 100%, 100%.
And I don't see it as what it is to me is it's this most beautiful dance of northern lights between analytical and intuition. And sometimes analytical needs to lead,
Interesting.
and
Okay,
sometimes intuition needs to lead.
Yeah. But it's allowing yourself to develop the capacity to be in relationship with either one of them.
Yes, and to know your truth and to know, okay, my inner wisdom says to now, I don't know. I got to go into my intuition. I got to stop, drop, and roll. I got to figure out, wait, what is my yes here?
Yeah.
And my
Yeah.
analytical mind can come in and go, all right, we need to grocery shop for 17 people. We got to go, and off we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
And they can support each other because if your intuition has a very strong yes around something, then the analytical mind can come in to um, play out the practicalities of that yes, to bring the intuition to fruition.
exactly. And so many people who are more masculine in their nature tend to want to keep it all analytical because emotional is so chaotic. It's only
Okay.
chaotic because we don't know how to use it.
Okay.
And it's an emotional system. It's not being overly emotional, it's an emotional system that complements intuition. Really, the introduction of what is intuition is to know and to have the ability to understand something instinctively without the conscious need for reasoning or logical analysis. And it's the coming back to trusting yourself, which in my world is why are we here on this planet? Is to learn to trust ourselves again.
Okay. Then tell me how to do that.
Eh,
Tell
Okay,
me give me some practical ways that I can learn this trust.
okay, awesome. So we understand the definition of what intuition is. Now we're going into how, and we talked about what blocks it, because those
Yeah.
are the two things we need to understand, because then we can bust our own asses to say, oh, I'm just afraid of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I can appreciate why I'm afraid of this. Okay, so we know what it is. We understand what blocks it. We now know we can recognize, oh, wait a second, I had a taste a minute ago and I didn't now. Or I did now, didn't a minute ago and I do now. What is
Yeah.
that? And it sounds airy-fairy until you put it all together and understand, oh, this is the reason I need to pay attention to this is because I'll give an example. Okay, so how to recognize it? Why would I need, why would I even need to know how to recognize this?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, it's, if it was me, my example, it would be like, all right, my mom, my husband and I were going to go away on a trip and it was all planned. My sister was coming and everything was all ready to go. We were going to have an awesome time. So a week before, I get this knowing. And the knowing is drops in like a little voice. And it's like, I don't think I'm supposed to go. And I'm going to tell you, all of these things of blocking intuition, the fear comes in, is like, oh my God, I'm going to have to say that I don't think I should go. How am I going to be met? What is someone going to think? How is this going to be? Okay. So I bat it back and forth like a pickleball and come to the point of, oh my God, I'm going to have to say something. I come up and I'm like, dude, I can't go. I'm getting a knowing that I can't go. And I'm going to tell you, I was met with cross-eyed and a big, like, oh my God, seriously? And I'm like, I can't, but why? I can't tell you why. It's just, I just have this feeling. It's just a knowing.
Yeah.
And there's eyeball rollings and the whole 9 yards. This is how you begin to work with knowing, is to trust it in small things.
That wasn't small though, Rosie.
I know.
That
It
was
never
big.
never goes small for me.
Yeah.
And so, which is why I had to learn in a rapid pace. And so again, you go like, okay, so you didn't go. Fantastic. And what happened? The day that I would have been flying to said place and in the air, my mom had a massive heart attack. My sister would have been at my place. I would have been somewhere else. She would have been alone.
Hmm.
Now, my sister has a full clear schedule. She can go to be with my mom. I'm at home. I can get everything ready because I had cleared my space and get everything ready so my kids can be left and I can go for 2 weeks. So my mom now has care and coverage for 3 beautiful weeks and no one is stressed. Fast forward, if I hadn't blown past that intuition, which I have in the past, blew
Hmm.
past it when I knew I wasn't supposed to go somewhere, and my entire house flooded, and it was a year of chaos. That's how I knew that I was never, never going to not listen to that intuition again. It is practice, Jill.
Okay.
It is putting it into practice, not in these big things that I'm suggesting, but in smaller places and spaces like, do I go left or right? Do I go to Safeway? Do I go to Save On?
Can you so help us with those practices then? What are my practices for like tiny decisions like Safeway or Save On? Because I just FYI, I'd prefer to start there than going downstairs and telling my husband I can't go on a trip.
It wasn't the funnest way to start, but I had started a little bit before. And yet, let's start with knowing your yes and your no.
Okay.
That's how it starts. Is how do I get my GPS to work? Do I shake it? It's your yes, no. I refer to it as my inner wisdom, my inner GPS, my yes, no. So again, we can use those examples of leaning forward, doing the sway test, doing the interlocked fingers and seeing what your yes and your no is. I always start with show me my yes,
Okay.
show me my no. If
And
you're using body to begin with inner wisdom.
so if I'm saying show me my yes, show me my no, am I sitting on the couch? Am I standing in my office? Like
Okay,
how,
let's start that. Let's start that
yeah,
right
yeah.
now. Okay, so if you're with a pendulum, you're going to hold it and you're going to show me my yes, and it could go back and forth, and show me my no could be side to side. Standing up is what I would suggest.
Okay.
Way test. Stand up and say to life, show, or to your own body, show me my yes. And 9 out of 10 times, you will get it leaning one way or the other. You'll lean forward or you lean back. Show me my no. You'll go backwards. Then ask, today with grocery shopping, do I go to Save On Foods or do I go and just see what drops in? Do I go to Save On or do I go to Safeway? And you'll go like, oh, okay, I go to Safeway because that's where you lean towards. And you go to Safeway and nothing unusual happens. You don't know. If you'd have gone to Save On Foods, you wouldn't have got your bananas.
Hmm.
Well, it's just pay attention. You might get everything you need and you're in and out really quickly, right? Or do I need to call so and so today? Yes or no? And then they add, like for example, small little things like this. Use your sway test, use your interlocking fingers, use your pendulum. Now, if you want to graduate a little bit and you don't want to use anything physical and you just want it in your body and use your body as the answer to yes, no, ask yourself some questions. Ask yourself yes, no questions, which are, am I supposed to go to see my mom this weekend? Yes or no? And what do you notice happen in your body, Jill? Do you notice your body goes out or in? What, like, those are some of the things. Do you notice it zipping up the front or down the back? It's playing with getting your yes and your no from this pendulum, which is your physical body.
So
Some
that
people,
you're recognizing a sensation and
yes,
you're being able to interpret the sensation or slash the movement or the whatever the however your body's responding to your question, you are now understanding that as a communication from your body and you're able to interpret that. It's like you're decoding a Morse code of some sort, like some sort of coded thing. So like
like
you're starting to understand that, oh, when my body does this, it's telling me yes.
exactly. And it could be for me for the longest time, it would be I would see a nod. I
See
would
and
see
nod.
a
Okay,
head
so you
and they would nod or they would shake their head back and forth. Again, we're going to bring in the extrasensory perception. So how you, or you might smell something. You might
okay,
taste something. So it's sometimes not always just a sensation.
okay,
And sometimes I would see a red check mark, no, a green check mark or a red X
okay.
because that's my strongest is sight.
Is sight.
Right?
Right.
And so whatever your extrasensory perception, so you understand that when we talk about intuition, I can't explain it in an hour because there's so many beautiful facets, so many
Yeah,
different languages
yeah. Well,
within
you
intuition.
Yeah, I mean, not to jump to your course, but you take 12 modules, and each module you get to spend at least 2 hours with homework and playtime plus question and answer period. So probably, I don't know, more like 3 or 4 or 5 hours in each module. So yeah, plenty of time to actually
Oh,
be
yeah.
in relationship with these practices. Okay,
And
so
the relationship. So how do you practically use this is what you were saying, is how do I use this? You understand all of perhaps the extrasensory perceptions, and then the practical exercise to strengthen this intuition or even begin with it is, let's keep it really simple. Let's keep it really simple. The first thing I would say is, you want to play a game?
yeah,
Okay. This is what I would say is, let's let's play this and this strengthens your trust.
okay,
And let's pick a question. Let's pick on, what do I need to focus on today?
okay.
Okay, so let's use just one simple question. What do I need to focus on today? And just take a deep breath, ask the question in your mind, and notice the very first image, word, feeling that comes up. Don't second guess it. This is your intuition speaking. Just don't second guess it. Jill, what was the first thing that dropped into your mind when you asked the question, what do I need to focus on today?
A connection.
Perfect. And how did you get that?
It was like audience, like it was I heard the word.
Brilliant. Do you know how beautiful this would be to use every day just to begin a practice of trusting your intuition?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So we can even take it one step further, which is, let's ask yourself, hmm,
Make the leap for me then between practicing that and then trusting it.
oh, that's a good question. Okay, so building the trust around intuition is that when you start with little things,
Yeah.
you will start, life guaranteed will give you signs that, oh my God, that's what that was. I
Okay.
did it. Oh my word, that's for instance, I one time I got a hit, oh, make an apple pie for this person and bring it to their house. I'm like, wait, what? I don't even know this person. All right, bring it over. And I'm like, I just bring the apple pie. And she starts sobbing, and she's like, my husband died last year and it's my anniversary, and apple pie was his favorite. It is again about trusting, and in the little things, you'll get your answers, so that even when we're doing these big things like global, you recognize, I may never see that for 7 years. I may never know that it was my wing flapping that shifted that, but I can, in the micro moments, have feedback that I know that when I'm working with my intuition and with energy and everything in between,
Yeah.
that it how I am playing in this world, because everything is in quantum physics energy, that what I put out and radiate has to affect something.
I will affirm that. I feel like my question is more like around the audience being able to hear the answer, because I feel like that's what kicked off when I started your course, and maybe not even kicked off. I think I've been learning to listen to my intuition more and more and more over all these years. But one thing that your course gave me was every month a new tangible tool to be in relationship experimentation inquiry with that tool to understand how it might be useful in my own relationship to my intuition.
Yes. Exactly.
So I feel like I have been learning, and I have been doing all these little tests, experiments, inquiry questions, and each one, like you said, you sort of start going, oh, and it's little things like, when you're leaving the house and your body says before you leave, oh, go back and get XYZ. And
Yeah.
then the day you leave the house and you didn't listen to it, you're like, damn it, I needed that thing. And my body told me right before I left the house that I should get it. Or you did go back and get it. And then 2 hours later, you're like, I brought it. I listened.
Exactly. Or I bought the pie, or I did the thing, or I called that person and there was such an ease and a grace to this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that's when we start to get into the flow of life. It
Yeah.
is then you're like, and yes, I'm listening.
Okay, so there's the next piece then. So what are the rewards? What is the result? What is the um I don't know, what happens to people who stay in right relationship with their inner wisdom, with their intuition?
Okay, well, I'll give it as an example, which is you tell me what happens when your back is misaligned.
You're in pain.
Same, no different.
Yeah. So when you are in alignment, you're in ease and grace. And when you're not listening, there's some sort of pain or suffering.
It is truth. And you sometimes won't understand until you've started to play in it. Sort of like you don't know how bad you feel until you feel good.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what's in it for you is you're guided every minute of every day. You
Mm.
get to you get to have this inner GPS that goes, I actually don't need to default to fear because you are trusting in yourself, in the intelligence of life every given moment. Can you imagine how that would feel?
Yes. Okay, one step further, it's energy efficient. And I feel like we live
Absolutely.
in a world that is a constant drain on our energy. And I feel like part of that reason is because we're always looking for the external solution, reason, expert, support, answer. And that's very energy expensive. It's taxing, it's draining, it's burdening us, it's exhausting us. And this alignment with intuition brings all of our energy back into congruence in our own bodies.
Exactly.
Well, and I do think right now what's happening is that the external answer is it's it's lost in a loud, noisy, overwhelming world. And so trying to find it is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So the efficiency that you can find when you use intuition as a source of guidance and answers and direction, just it just seems to make so much sense.
And it create when we go into external trying to find, it creates such fear.
Yeah.
It because you're not 100% sure you found it.
Well, and even the fear is almost used to sell you the answer.
Of course, because again, we've been taught from little, somebody outside ourselves has our answers. Why? Because then it's easy to shape a culture or to shape, because if we all had our own internal compasses and our truth was our truth, it'd be really challenging to pull anything over on anyone because the only thing that would be true is this loving? Is this kind? Is this compassionate?
The more people in our world who are well connected to their own intuition, the more, the less fear, the less shame, the less judgment, the more compassion, the more kindness, the more love we have. I believe that somehow this is part of the answer of this waking up world.
Absolutely. And yet, more often than not, when we connect into our intuition, it brings us home. It brings us in. It brings us into doing our work, which is, wow, I really have a core belief around not being safe. And
Right.
as a result, I become very forceful or fear mongering, or I need power, I need overpower. But when we come home to this intuition, into this knowing, into this energy understanding, it'll bring you home. The background of what I want to be is luminous. Like
Yeah.
to radiate means to shift, to brighten, to shine so another can see. It's like, I don't need to make you see. I can radiate. I don't need to take anything from you. I don't need to learn. I can radiate out because I know my truth.
Yeah. I like that.
And I'm home with myself.
Hmm.
Know myself so well that I will say, I'm sorry, I can't come out because I need to recalibrate my energy. I'm exhausted. When we know ourselves so well, we can have and can know both sides of ourselves. Because there's a shadow and a beauty side, then we can have compassion for everything that's happening in this world
Yeah.
and radiate it out.
So therein lies the benefit is that when you know yourself well, you can have compassion for everything and everyone in this world.
But when we know ourselves so well and we know and trust our intuition, and it's not about, I need you to have my answers, or I need you to like me, or I need anything from you. When you know you so well, it's about, I can hold this with compassion because I can hold myself with compassion. And I
Yeah.
can say, no, this does not work for me.
Yeah. So
Policy
it's,
doesn't
and
do
that's
greatest. And that is the beauty of what you get out of it, is the sense of a power within oneself to say, I can hold you, but your actions, no. Now,
what then that relationship to intuition gives you is a self-respect and self-honoring, and then an ability to hold loving boundaries where you can respect yourself and the other people simultaneously.
exactly.
You can reach Rosie at her website, rosereeder.com, where she has all the details about how you can be a part of her course. Rose, is there anything else you want to tell us about your course?
The next course starts on April 15th. It's 8 weeks every Tuesday. And yeah, just come play and ask yourself first, is this for me? And if you get a yes, listen to it. And if you say, no, not yet, then don't. Because that's one of the ways that you can use this. And it can be so efficient to just say, nope, not yet. But if
Yeah.
you get a yes, I'll be so excited to see you there. It is a grand homecoming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rosie Reeder, for shining your light and letting me see your luminescence and step toward it.
Thank you, Miss Jill. Thanks
Ah.
for being a great doula, midwife, and coach.
Have a great day, my friend.
You too. Take care, love.